Hello everyone, welcome to the KZGN News. Today we'll bring you news of another terror attack in Columbus, Ohio, news from yesterday's presidential Democrat debate, news of new water restrictions, other campaign news, there's a carnival coming to Ridgecrest next week, today's gas prices, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News Crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitney. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. In the developing story of a possible terrorist attack in Ohio, we get this report. A suspect who attacked patrons and staff at the Nazareth restaurant in Columbus, Ohio. He did it with a machete last night. He was shot and killed by police minutes later. There are some indications that the attack may have been motivated by the owner's Israeli heritage. 4 people were transported to the hospital, 1 critically injured. Victims were able to get video of the suspect's car and a partial license plate. Police were able to locate the suspect's vehicle and gave chase. After spinning the car out, the suspect emerged with both a machete and a knife and lunged at the police, at which point the suspect was shot and killed. CBS News is reporting that the FBI is investigating the incident as a lone wolf terror attack. CBS News has identified the suspect as Mohammed Berry. However, the Columbus police have not confirmed the suspect's name. CBS News also reports Berry has a Somali background and may have traveled to Dubai in 2012. The popular owner of the restaurant is an Israeli Christian from Haifa. The husband of one of the victims claimed on Twitter last night that the suspect entered the restaurant and asked where the owner was from. Police said that some kind of discussion or altercation then occurred, at which time the suspect left. He then returned approximately 45 minutes later with the machete and immediately began attacking patrons and staff. They resisted and began throwing chairs at the suspect. One of the staff apparently grabbed some kind of weapon. The owner was known for walking around with an aluminum baseball bat. This resulted in the man fleeing the restaurant. Law enforcement tells them the incident appears to be the type of lone wolf terrorist attacks they're trying to stop. The FBI is assisting in the investigation. Homegrown terror, our newest and continuing problem. Well, Thursday evening we had another Democrat presidential debate. It was moderated by Judy Woodruff and Gwen Eiffel, and was held at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. It was hosted by PBS. Clinton and Sanders' manner generally was carefully courteous to one another, but their words often were caustic and they became more heated as the debate wore on. Clinton was in search of a momentum after her narrow win in Iowa and near-historic defeat in New Hampshire. Sanders was under pressure to demonstrate he could expand his appeal to include more of the minority voters who will be critical in the next set of contests. Nevada, where nearly 1 in 5 voters are Latino, will hold Democratic caucuses February 20th. A week later, Democrats in South Carolina, a majority of them African American, will vote in their primary. That brought a sharper focus on questions that haven't been at the center of previous debates. Comments including notorious cases of police violence against unarmed black men and the issue of incarceration of African Americans came up. Both made their stance on illegal immigration real clear this time, too. In sharp contrast to all the Republican candidates, Clinton and Sanders both called for comprehensive immigration reform and a path to citizenship for all illegal immigrants now living in the United States. They did not use the term illegal immigrants, instead opting to use the politically correct term undocumented immigrants. Clinton was asked if she supported Albright's comments this week when she said that there is a special place in hell for women that don't support other women. Clinton just brushed it off, saying that she's been saying that for years. The moderator then asked Sanders a rough question in the way it was phrased. They asked if he will share any blame for stopping the first woman being elected to the White House if he wins. Ouch. He went on to answer that if a Jewish, anti-establishment socialist named Sanders gets elected, that would be history-making too. The moderators asked both candidates what their new promised entitlement programs will cost. Clinton answered her programs will cost about $100 billion a year and will be paid for by taxes on Wall Street giants and the higher wage earners. Clinton challenged Sanders on how his would be paid for. Sanders did not give a number. even after being challenged and asked again by the moderators. All he said is that his programs are possible to be covered by his planned changes to health care and taxing the Wall Street giants and high-wage earners. He went on to say, insinuating that it doesn't matter how much they cost, but that we have the right to free college, no student loans, health care, and retirement, thereby framing it as a requirement the government provide these programs, regardless the cost. Sanders continued once again, though, no questions or comments about Benghazi or the email scandals for Clinton came up. I guess these are off-limit questions for her. Both Sanders and Clinton continued their attacks on the Republicans, and mostly at Trump. Sanders continued his attack on a corrupt political system and big PACs running campaigns and candidates. At one point, Sanders, again challenging Clinton on all her Wall Street funding, said that she will not go after Wall Street, as she says. Sanders stated that the American people are not stupid. There is a reason those guys donate millions of dollars to her. They don't just throw around money. They will want something in return for their investment. And Clinton continued her canned answer to that, it won't matter to her when she is president. To which Sanders replied that she isn't president yet. Clinton wrapped herself as the next Obama. She gave so many accolades it was astonishing. Sanders also tried to tie himself to Obama, and Clinton really tore at Sanders as not being an Obama supporter. They had a lengthy debate about that one issue. The attacks frustrated Sanders enough that he at one point said that her questioning his loyalty to the president was a low blow, and shot back, "One of us ran against Barack Obama. I was not that candidate." As the campaign transitions from mostly white Iowa and New Hampshire to a Latino-heavy Nevada and African-American-dominated South Carolina, both candidates were focused from the onset on courting minority voters. For Clinton, it was about hitting point-by-point challenges confronting minorities. For Sanders, it was an opportunity to hit his core argument that soaring income inequality is the injustice at the root of all America's problems. We can talk about it as a race issue, but it's a general economic issue, Sanders said. There was little time spent on ISIS and Islamist terrorists, just a cursory short discussion of both. There was also no talk about rebuilding the military. The only surprise came when Sanders challenged Clinton of her admiration of Henry Kissinger when he was Secretary of State. This seemed to surprise Clinton. Clinton's comeback that cast doubt on Sanders' qualifications on foreign policy, saying, "Well, I know journalists have asked you who you do listen to on foreign policy, and we have yet to know who that is." But the two talked for a surprisingly long time about Kissinger and his record. Clinton praised Kissinger, saying that his opening up of China and his ongoing relationship with the leaders of China is an incredibly useful relationship for the United States of America, no matter what anyone might think of the 92-year-old Kissinger. Sanders said, "I am proud to say that Henry Kissinger is not my friend. I will not take any advice from Henry Kissinger." Anyway, not very much new came from this debate, but they did spend a lot of time emphasizing on African Americans and Latinos. Seems the minority vote has become their next emphasis. Now stay with us for news about the next Republican debate when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. In other debate news, the next Republican debate will be Saturday, February 13th. It'll be hosted by CBS News starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. It'll be held at the Peace Center, Greenville, South Carolina. The moderators will be John Dickerson, Major Garrett, and Kimberly Strassel. So the Republicans get to mix it up Saturday evening. I bet Rubio doesn't make the same mistakes he made at the last debate. My bet is that the Republicans will also be going after the minority votes and doing a lot of discussion as to who is the real conservative. The current South Carolina polls show Trump at 36, Cruz at 20, Rubio 15, Bush 11, Kasich at 9, and Carson at 5. In other presidential news, there were reports last month that Bloomberg may enter the race if he thinks Clinton is slipping away and that Sanders is rising. Well, it was reported yesterday that Bloomberg has begun the process of entering the race as an independent. While he hasn't officially filed yet, he has started the process. Most race pundits say that he needs to declare real soon if he is going to do it. He is almost out of time. In exciting sports news from last weekend, we get news that Ridgecrest had some young people compete in a powerlifting competition in Bakersfield. The event was held at the National Academy of Strength and Power. Burroughs High School senior Kaylin Cano competed in 3 divisions. She won gold in all 3 divisions. She tried to set a record in the deadlift, lifting 331 pounds, but her lift wasn't perfect, so she was disqualified for that lift. Nonetheless, she set a California and American bench press record for women 16 to 17 years old. She also was rated the best female lifter and female bencher in the juvenile divisions. For the guys, George Cano brought home the trophy for bench press. Finishing up was Mark Danieluk, who not only scored the biggest raw bench, he also set a new California and American bench press record. He bench pressed 501 pounds. Wow. Congratulations goes out to these fine athletes. In Indian Wells Valley Water District news, the districts only saw a 17.9% decrease in water use in January. This brings the cumulative water conservation number to 23.6%. This is pretty far off the state-mandated requirements of a 36% water usage reduction. In January, there were 38 water waster reports. 2 formal notices were issued. No fines were issued in January. The district recently passed Ordinance 100. This new ordinance limits outdoor watering to once per week. This brought some confusion as to the other watering ordinance last year establishing watering to only 3 days per week. In talking to the Water District this morning, I got this clarification. Ordinance 100 is the rule for winter or cold months, and the 3-day per week ordinance is for the hotter and summer months. They generally say that 1 day per week schedule will go until the end of February, and then starting in March, the watering will go to 3 days per week again, if the weather turns warm. So, simply, it's 1 day a week now, and 3 days a week starting in March. The Water District still encourages everyone to make sure your trees are watered to keep them alive. Of course, there is still an emphasis to move away from vegetation that needs a lot of water. Move to water and drought-tolerant plants if possible. Well, how about some fun news? Fun news for the kids. Well, coming next week, it will be carnival time again in Ridgecrest. Police and Citizens Together, PACT, is once again presenting the Spring Carnival. This is a fundraiser for PACT. The carnival will be behind Leroy Jackson Park, across from La Mirage Housing Area, and by the City Skate Park. PACT gets 20% of the proceeds of this event. The carnival will be here next week. It starts Thursday, February 18th, and runs through Sunday, February 21st. On Thursday and Friday, it'll run from 5 to 10 p.m. Saturday, it'll run from noon to 11 p.m. Sunday, noon to 9 p.m. So, get ready for a carnival and help support PACT. PACT is the main volunteer organization that supports the Ridgecrest Police Department. Next week is carnival time in Ridgecrest. Now in KZGN's continuous effort to provide news and information you've asked for, here are today's gas prices for Ridgecrest and some surrounding areas. Since my report on Wednesday, gas prices everywhere are dropping again. Local prices dropped 5 cents per gallon. Ridgecrest still has the lowest prices in all the areas we are monitoring. As of this morning, Ridgecrest is ranging from $2.27 to $2.89. Lancaster from $2.45 to $2.79. The LA Valley area $2.35 to $2.49. And the Bishop area $2.72 to $2.99. We have one station at the $2.27 amount, then one more at $2.28, and then 4 more stations at $2.31 amount. Tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for updates. We at KZGN always suggest you shop locally to support our local economy. Remember, when you pay sales tax out of town, you're helping those cities pave their streets instead of here. Now stay with us for weather and sports when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. Now here's Lane with the weather.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service, a bitterly cold air mass will settle over much of the central and eastern U.S. over the next several days. Well below normal temperatures and cold wind chills will be common. In addition, lake effect snow will be possible, especially downwind of Lake Erie and Ontario, where up to 1 foot of additional snow is forecast by Sunday morning. Temperatures across the nation. Carolinas at 34, Georgia at 60, Arkansas at 59, Northern Texas at 67, New Mexico at 59, and Los Angeles at 74. And for us locally, tonight, mostly clear with a low around 40, southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday, sunny with a high near 74, southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday night, mostly clear with a low around 40, west-northwest wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Sunday, sunny with a high near 73, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Sunday night, clear with a low around 43, north wind 10 miles per hour. On Washington's birthday, sunny with a high near 74, north-northeast wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Monday night, clear with a low around 41, north-northwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. And Tuesday, sunny with a high near 75, north-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
Thanks, Lane. And now here's Tom Heck with sports.
And a very pleasant Friday early evening to everyone. Let's talk about the weekend. Saracoso Baseball has their first home game Saturday at noon. It'll be against Pasadena. The Mather brothers are throwing out the first pitch. They have been a great source of support for Saracoso College, and they'll be having that first pitch right about a few minutes before noon. Come on out. Thursday, Coastal will be home again. They'll play Imperial Valley. That game will be broadcast live on 1240 a.m. KLOA in the Valley. All right, Burroughs High School girls basketball, they will find out about where they will be going or possibly playing a home game on Sunday when the CIF Southern Section announces their playoff pairings down in Artesia. Now, Burroughs finished second in the Mojave River League. They had a 7-3 record, and if things go right, they may get a home game, and that would be sometime next week. Could be Saturday night here in Ridgecrest, or the other option is they would be on the road, and if they win the road game, then they would automatically come home for a playoff game at home in the second round. All right, let's talk about college basketball last night. California all over Oregon, 83-63. Oregon was 9-2 in the league coming into that game. Cal now 6-5. Oregon loses their third game of the season in the conference. That game not even close. Cal looked very, very good. And the way it's going right now, the Pac-12 may end up getting as many as 6 teams in the NCAA tournament, especially with the fact that 2 of the big weights have been tossed out. SMU and Louisville, top 20 teams, will not participate because of violations and restrictions. All right, Temple beat UConn 63-58. Boy, UConn gave that thing away. That's a big win for Temple. Santa Barbara over UC Davis in the Big West, along with Long Beach State beating Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Also last night, Indiana over Iowa, which creates a 3-way tie in the Big Ten for basketball fans who might have interest in that. Syracuse over Florida State, and BYU beats USF in Provo. All right, the Raiders have signed a lease contract for the stadium next year in 2016. Oakland trying to get a new stadium for the Raiders. They have threatened to move. They wanted to come to LA. They were not one of the teams chosen to come to Los Angeles, but they're still working on options. And perhaps, like the 49ers who got a new stadium, perhaps the Raiders will. And I'll tell you what, the Raiders are deserving of a new place to play. The old Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, which has been renamed a dozen times, is one of the older football venues, and it's one of the few, if any, I think it's one of only 2 teams in the NFL that have to share their stadium with a professional baseball team. All right, let's take a look at the Hockey League last night, NHL. The Jackets beat the Ducks 4-3. The Ducks battling for a playoff spot right now as we start to head down the midway to final stretch of the NHL. In the NBA last night, the Bucks beat the Wizards and the Thunder beat the Pelicans. Kevin Durant 23 points. Now the All-Star break is upon us. Billy Donovan, the new coach of Oklahoma City, has 40 wins. Now, that is the second highest of a first-year coach at the All-Star break in the history of the NBA. That's pretty credible right there. All right, now, the All-Star break upon us, as I mentioned. What are some of the surprises and what are some of the disappointments, in my opinion, along with other people's opinions so far? Well, we'll start with the Lakers. I thought the Lakers would do a little bit better this year. Kobe Bryant's last year. The Lakers find themselves probably out of the playoff hunt. They're in dead last place in that Pacific Division. Now, the Clippers all of a sudden without Blake Griffin. They're playing very, very well right now. They are battling for second place in Pacific and should have a good playoff spot. And who knows, they might even get Blake back before the season's over. He's out another 4 to 5 weeks, was in a altercation with a equipment manager in Toronto when the team was up there. And right now he is out, and then he'll be suspended 4 games after he is put back on the active duty. That is a suspension from the team for his actions there. All right, let's talk about Golden State. 49-4, can you get any better than that? Steve Kerr and his team, and Luke Walton, the interim coach for a long time. San Antonio, only 7 losses this season. They haven't lost at home this year. They're number 1 in the Southwest. They're going to have a real good playoff spot. Atlanta's doing okay. Mike Budenholzer, second-year coach, that team has battled a lot of injuries, and if they get healthy, look for them to be tough in the playoffs. Cleveland very strong, despite firing David Blatt. Now, David Blatt was let go. His team had only 11 losses on the year. They were in first place in that Eastern Division. However, management said that it wasn't about wins and losses. So when is it not about wins and losses in the NBA? I wish a lot more coaches out there felt that was a philosophy from the team that they were fired for, because they didn't have enough wins. All right, the Knicks, I think they're improved. Carmelo Anthony really well behaved this year, but firing of Derek Fisher. I couldn't get over that. Derek Fisher, hired by Phil Jackson. Fisher played for Phil Jackson, let him go, and then brings in Kurt Rambis right now as the interim coach. Rambis played for the Lakers before Phil Jackson was the coach. Rambis was the interim coach of the Lakers, also coached in Minnesota. Didn't have success at either spot. All right, let's talk a little bit about a couple major disappointments right now. Boy, Washington, what's wrong with the Wizards? They had such a good year last year and just kind of falling apart this year. Memphis, disappointing right now also. They need to do better. And Houston, boy, Houston, they let their head coach Kevin McHale go. They're just not doing much better either. Sometimes a coaching change just doesn't make much difference. Folks, that's your sports for this Friday. Have a very good weekend. Don't forget the All-Star game on Sunday. We'll talk to you on Monday. Tom Heck for KZGN Sports.
So that's the news for today. Also, KZGN-TV, know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk, coming up next.